this time. Now you come to visit me, brother. Why? To mock.
I need your help. But I wish I could trust you.
If you did, you'd be the fool I always took you for.
Hey guys, Lucas here again. Today we're going to be talking about the new post-Avengers / Marvel superhero flick, Thor: The Dark World. Thor: The Dark World is, of course, the sequel to the first Thor, which came out in 2011, and the sequel to The Avengers, which came out in 2012. And this one follows Thor, and he's doing more godly things back at Asgard. And then suddenly, Natalie Portman's character, Jane Foster, who, is his romantic interest that he met in the last movie, finds this whole thing, this thing called the ether, and that summons back this old civilization of evil elves, and the story doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But that doesn't matter, because what you want to see is Thor kicking ass, and does he do that in this movie? Yeah. Thor: The Dark World is an okay sequel. Personally, it is not as good as the first film, not as good as The Avengers, but it's an overall okay comic book film. Start off with the performances. They're, for the most part, pretty solid. Chris Hemsworth is, again, great as Thor. I think he kind of owns the role by now. He's definitely charming, and he's definitely believable and convincing in the action sequences. Also, Loki is in this movie because Chris Hemsworth himself needs a little help stopping the villain in this one. So there's a little bit of a team up there. And again, Tom Hiddleston's great as Loki, who I think has always been a really solid villain. And he definitely lights up the screen whenever he's on. Then we get to the actors that don't play gods. Natalie Portman, she's fine. We all know she's a really good actress, but just this whole character and the role is just kind of, she's not given much to do. She's just kind of the damsel in distress / scientist, and she's fine. Kat Dennings, I'll get to her later. Not a fan. And then Stellan Skarsgård, I mean, he's such a good actor, but he's just kind of reduced to a streaker in this movie. The movie is directed by Alan Taylor, who apparently has been a director on many episodes of Game of Thrones, which is a show that I don't watch, but I've heard is fantastic. And he directs the action scenes very well. I think that's the highlight of this movie, is the action is really well directed. There's none of that shaky cam. Everything is really just really crisp and clear, and everything is great to watch, especially because just the world building is so great, and the CG is fantastic. But the action scenes are plentiful. They're well shot, like I said, and there's a lot of variety. It's not just the same thing over and over again. And whenever Thor uses that hammer, that is some badass shit. Also, probably my favorite part about this movie was the back and forth between Thor and Loki. While there isn't enough of that, I think, in this movie, that is something that I think the movie does very well, because it shows the dichotomy with Thor's relationship with his brother, because he wants to trust him so bad, and he wants to have a relationship, but he just can't because, God of mischief and all. And all that, and the acting between the two, I thought was just really interesting, and there really could have been more of that. There's so many problems, though, with this movie that makes it seem kind of cheesy. Even the first one had elements of that, but I feel like they carried a lot of that into this one. My biggest problem with the movie, and my biggest headache that I get from these movies, is Kat Dennings' character. I can't stand her. While she has some okay stuff, I guess, in the first one, there is not one funny line that they give her in here, and she's just an annoying presence. And then they have another whole subplot with her and this intern that is also not funny and completely unnecessary. And then just any actors that pretty much are on Earth, that includes Natalie Portman and Stellan Skarsgård, their dialogue and their acting is just both too cheesy, and it takes away from all the cool stuff on Asgard, which, by the way, I'm very happy that most of this movie takes place on Asgard as opposed to Earth in the first movie. I think that's something that the movie it did in a major improvement. Also, the villain and the villain's motive and the whole ether thing didn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, the villain here is some elf named Malekith or something like that. And he's just a really forgettable villain. I mean, he has some screen presence, but nothing he says is really all that entertaining. And the whole elf thing just felt like just something they made up, like, oh, we gotta have Thor fight some guy, so let's just make up this whole thing. Definitely a major downgrade from having Loki in the past 2 movies. So I just felt like that, combined with the whole Ether storyline, just didn't really make a whole lot of sense. Not that you're really going to this movie for the story, but it would have been nice to have something more coherent. The first 20 minutes of this movie, to me, I was really getting worried because I was not enjoying it at all. They have a lot of stuff with Kat Dennings and Natalie Portman. There's a lot of stuff on Earth in the beginning of the movie, and I was like, oh no, they're going to be doing Earth stuff again. They're going to be focusing on the comedic duo over here that's not very comedic. And luckily, once like the 30-minute mark, the film definitely picks up. But the first 20 minutes is pretty rough, I'm not going to lie. I thought this movie was going to be terrible, judging by that. That being said, though, the Thor the Dark World is an entertaining watch. I think if you want to see it, you should see it in the theater because the film looks great and it has a lot of great action scenes that I think you should see on the big screen. That being said, it is kind of forgettable and is definitely the most forgettable Marvel film I think I've seen since The Incredible Hulk. So I'm going to give Thor the Dark World 3 stars out of 5. I think it's, if you're a fan of the Marvel movies, then you should check it out, but if you're iffy on them, just wait for a rental. That's my review of Thor the Dark World. Let me know what you thought of it. Did you like it more than the first one, or did you like it less? And let me know what your favorite Marvel film is, and who is your favorite Marvel character down below. So if you like this review, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.
All yours.
Anyone else?